Hello. I finally got this working correctly. Let me get my spaces going. I'm going to go ahead and announce in spaces that we're doing this, and then we'll get started. I was having some technical difficulties. I'm growing my I'm growing my audio. This looks blurry. I don't know if I want to do this one, but we're stuck with this camera. Let's see if we can focus a little bit better. See if I could get this going to focus. Well, it's not going to focus right now. I do apologize for the blurriness. Let's see if I could get spaces for those who want to start talking. Some issues with my volume. So if you want to verbally come on board while this is live, feel free. We will allow you some time. Here we go. To come and talk if you want to speak in spaces as well. You should be able to follow me on both. I'm on X. I'm just setting up some things here. If you follow the Loon on X, you could jump on spaces. I have a live spaces going on right now. And I'm posting it on it. So feel free to jump on. And today I learned a very valuable lesson. Persistence is key when doing things. Persistent is key. Here we go. And let me see. We're going to have a nice little discussion today. Welcome to Buddy Check. I am the Loon. I had some technical difficulties. I just need to. There are certain people that get the special treatment from me, and they actually get to. They get to go ahead and get personal notifications from me. So I'm just going to send this out. Whew, I know I'm starting close to 30 minutes late. I do apologize for that, but like I said, I'm trying out a new camera, which is messing up with my sound. So, and it took me a little bit, a lot of rebooting and a lot of reorganizing, trying to work it out. I'm getting things slowly but surely to get this podcast to look a little bit better. But I'm not expecting that many people or anyone comes on. If you come on X, just say hi. I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. So today is Buddy Check number 5. I am episode number 5. I'm breaking them down to episodes. It's a little bit rough on during the week because I actually work during the week. So it's a little bit, hectic. And one of my favorite podcasters actually I lost that. Is actually running late today, so it was background noise. So today our topic is going to be basically grief. A few people may be having a rough week. It is the first month of the year. We came out of the holiday season, which actually is a very difficult time for many. Once you become an adult, there are things that bothers you, and there are things that make you start thinking. So we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about grief. But before we do, we have to do, and I always say, I always start this particular series with the Serenity Prayer. And the Serenity Prayer is, grant me, God, I'll start over again, sorry. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. This is a prayer that you would really associate while going through grief. Now, first, let's look at the definition of grief. I did go in online to get the definition because if you ask anybody and you're walking across or walking along the street, people will tell you different things. But the two main things it says, grief is deep sorrow, especially that is caused by someone's death. The second one is trouble or annoyance. Um, Grief is emotional, so it's not always connected to someone's passing. It could be an event. It could be a disappointment of a life change that you thought was going to happen and it didn't happen. Uh, you find that dream apartment, house, and you have your heart set on it, and something happens and you don't get it. That could bring on grief. Granted, most of us don't go through the stages of grief, which I'm going to highlight in a few moments. Most of us don't follow the steps of grief when stuff like that happens, but you do go through it. So let's look at the 5 stages of grief, and then we're going to get into our discussion. Everybody knows this. It's called denial. You don't believe it's happening. You won't accept it. It's the lack of acceptance, denial. Uh, Depending on the the level of denial, you could act like it never even happened. You could act like you never even was approached by that particular issue, or you made that particular decision or something like that. That could happen during grief. um when you're grieving, when you're going through the denial, it's like, no, no, it's not part of my reality. That basically is how that goes. um so I'm going through this just so you understand that this is normal. This is a normal process, and that's what this is a process. The next is anger, raging out, projecting your anger to somebody else. you know um it is said to be kind to people, even forgiving, especially when you run into strangers, and then an issue may occur that an issue may occur where you're walking around and may be fresh, just new, or it's bottled up, because there's no time limit for these to come up, and you just you're just angry at someone, that person who's cussing someone out or going off on someone. I live in New York, so that's a normal occurrence when walking down the street. Well, not in my neighborhood, but when you go into the city or you're on public transportation, you might see somebody going off or cussing to themselves or cussing on the phone sometimes. You're projecting your anger at someone, something as little, something that you would think is very small. Um, could be it. I know, let me see. I was grieving one time. This is a while ago before I found my grounding, and I was having financial issues, and I was grieving my place in life. Now, we're talking about this is like more than 10 years ago. And to that customer service person I spoke to, I do apologize. Um, and something happened where they wouldn't work with me, or they were not giving me the answer I wanted. And I went off on this poor woman. She was not the issue. She was doing her job. But she became the catalyst for me to release that anger I was going through. This falls under being mindful of your actions. The third one, this one actually, I thought bargaining. I thought this one was only due to someone's passing. But actually, if when I look back, it's whenever I'm grieving any emotional crisis, and that's usually you bargaining, you're pleading with God or you're pleading with a higher being. Please, please, please give me this. Please help me out. Please show me a sign. Please don't make it true. And then there's getting lost in fantasy of what could have been. That one could be a little bit more dangerous because you sit there and because you won't accept and you're going through your denial, but you're trying to avoid being angry, or you just went through a anger fit. You put yourself in a place. It's almost delusional, but it's a normal thing, but to an extent. In your mind, it didn't occur, still going through denial, but instead of being angry, you're saying, I am going to go through life as if I'm experiencing it the way I want to experience it. That's a form of bargaining. Um, whether you plead with a deity or whether you believe in, if I speak it into existence or if I imagine it is going to change, they're going to change their mind and they're going to call me and they're going to say, I accept you for that apartment. Or you're going to automatically, if you're going through financial problems like I was when I went off on that poor woman, you automatically expecting the phone to ring, expecting an email saying, oh, I'm sorry, that was a clerical error. Here you go. Or you're going to go to the store and you're going to hit lotto and you're going to hit the jackpot. That's part of the bargaining process. The fourth one, which is the one that I believe is the most dangerous one, is depression. Grief could get you be so painful and it manifests itself in depression. Um, it's like a deep sadness that could almost be physical. Um, Depression comes in waves, and we all go through it, no matter what. We all go through depression. It's just the level of depression you go through, and to be so self-aware that you recognize the signs of when it occur. And the last one, I call it the releasing one, is acceptance. You understand this is life. Life is not fair. Life doesn't always go the way you want. And you accept it and you act accordingly. Why do I choose grief to talk about this month? I mean, this is the first month of the year. It's it's supposed to be new beginnings. But for some it's a sad time. It holds good memories. For many, I'm sure there's always been there's got to be a point in your life when you um brought in the new year with special people for those who would attend this particular or view this particular video. You're probably an ex-soldier, so I'm sure you had plenty of, if you could remember, wonderful beginning of years while you served. When you were a kid, it was a big thing. If you attended school, it was a big thing. Um, it was a special thing. But you also go through that time when, how can I say, you have that time where you have to do some retrospecting. Um, this is the month where people are kicking in their New Year's resolution. They are, you're trying to make a positive change. But to make that positive change, you start looking back and you could get caught up. Uh, Depending on the day or the occasion, I mean, there are things that kick off the emotion. And you have to handle grief the best way. I I I need to carry a notepad because I was watching one of my favorite podcasts, and someone mentioned, I think it was veteran biker, I believe so. Well, someone mentioned that no matter what, you could make it through. No matter what grief, what level of grief you're going through, you could make it through. Um, you have to get on that board and ride that wave. You have to ride the wave of denial. Um, the denial part is an expectation of, I'm going to close my eyes, go to sleep, and when I wake up, it's all going to be fixed. Uh, Life doesn't work that way. Um, but you have to get to that point where you either get angry it's not going your way, which with therapy and with the proper support group, you could deal with anger in the healthy way. Um, Try to avoid the unhealthy ways. Try not to do something that you will regret for a very long time. I've noticed, actually this week even, that there have been people, I don't know what they're going through. People get angry just to get angry. Anger is not just for that, but anger management. Take a time out. Stop for a minute. Learn some breathing exercises. Um, don't get physical with people. Therapy is the best because I would say a therapist is geared to deal with anger better than, I would rather go to a therapist and lash out verbally, verbally, instead of going to a friend who is not equipped to deal with it, or even worse, a stranger. On my day-to-day travel, I always see people who they're lashing out due to anger. Something pissed them off. Something simple. It could be something simple as someone accidentally bumping into you. Um, that causes some conflict, and that goes down a road. So, the anger is the one that's the most dangerous when it comes to grief, because how you react through that anger is it could hold consequences. It could be harmful. It could be harmful to you, and it could be harmful to someone else. And you took a oath to defend and protect. And when that anger hits, taking a moment, taking a few deep breaths, taking a moment to walk away from the situation and put yourself in a more pleasant place, whether physically or mentally, but still processing that anger. Um, the bargaining part, to each their own. Don't stay there too long. Most people don't, because usually with that one, when it doesn't come true and when it doesn't happen, reality sets in. Hence why it rolls right into it. I mean, and these don't happen in order, but the order I set them is basically on point, only because when the bargaining doesn't help, which it never does, um, you get depressed, you get upset. Depression outside of anger is the another dangerous one, only because you can't see outside of your mind. Depression gets you stuck in your head. When that comes on, that saying, um, go out and smell some roses. Right now, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to say the date earlier. Today is January 22nd, 2025. And up here in New York, it is freezing. Let me tell you, I am not a person who likes the cold, but you do what you do. I got to get my bills paid sometimes. So leaving my house, which is a good thing, despite the fact it's a little bit uncomfortable for various reasons. It's good to go out for a walk. I During the holiday seasons, that's when depression hits hard for me. And I found that when I step out and I just go take a 10-minute walk up to the store, I've found that, first of all, since I live in a neighborhood that people are so pleasant, one of the people walking by may smile, may say good morning, may nod their head, or they're walking a dog, and it gets me out of that space. It makes me feel a little better. Um, and it gets me out of that depressive mode. And acceptance, when you accept the circumstances of your situation, and we're all adults, you're an adult. You're old enough to hold a weapon and serve time as a veteran, as a soldier, a seaman, uh, a Marine, an airman. You're an adult. You can make this decision. And when you accept the situation, whether it be a death, whether it be your current situation, whether it be something as small, and I giggle because this happens to me some from time to time. Something as simple as I tried to cook something and it didn't turn out the way it was supposed to. This is a cycle. But the person I was thinking about, and I wish I could remember who it was, is not to fret, push through, and this too shall pass. I know it sounds like a cliche. It's something that you don't want to hear. Granted, when I'm in the middle of it and I'm in the middle of the storm, yeah, it doesn't sound encouraging. But the knowledge that it won't be there forever, or it's not something that will happen every day, is encouraging. Now, we can't go back and change the past. Accept that. We can't resurrect people, although we would like to sometimes. We can't change a situation, nor can we erase a situation. But what we can do is learn the lesson from the situation and move forward. I don't want to say move on because that sounds like you're erasing to me that almost falls under bargaining. It didn't happen. That's not what you want to do. You went through an experience, possibly a traumatic experience, and sometimes that's a heavy burden to carry. um Depending on the level, it could lead to PTSD. It could lead to constant depression. But first and foremost, you are not alone. You have help, whether it's a confidant or whether it's a therapist. And I'm going to keep saying therapist because if the event is traumatic enough where you're having thoughts that are, if you're having thoughts that would steal the precious opportunity that I could have to ever be blessed with your presence and your wisdom, therapy is the best thing for you. Therapy is what I'm always going to suggest. Therapy saved my life, and I go to therapy on and off. I know there's a stigma with it. Um, I'm going to say fuck the stigma and do what's good for you, because there are people for you to meet. There are people who has to experience you. Be a blessing to them. You're going to be their pride and joy. I'm looking for, I'm sorry. I have something here that I really want to share with you. I didn't have it queued up because, I'm a spaz sometimes. And I was taken aback. Oh, here we go. I was taken aback because I wasn't prepared. So, all right, I'm going to sound like a commercial. I'm sorry. But to all my military people and to all my veterans, if you find yourself, hold on a minute. Oh, shoot. Something's burning. I'm sorry about that. I almost set my house ablaze. Oh, I smelt my food burning. Laughter is key too. But before I start talking about laughter being key, if you find yourself in a situation where you're stuck, I'm begging you, pick up your phone and dial 1 800 273 8255 and then press 1. Because then you need someone to talk to, especially if you can't laugh, especially if the anger is getting to you, if the depression is getting to you, if the grief is getting to you. Um, I'm going to admit it. This is a number I've used several times when I hit that point in life where the grief was too much. And grief doesn't happen automatically after the particular event, just so you know. It could take years. It could take decades, days or months. When it happens, it happens. You don't choose. You don't choose when it happens, but as a veteran, as a military personnel, the key thing is to be prepared. I'm going to give you that number one more time. That number is 1 800 273 8255. And a matter of fact, and I'm going to do this while I have you here with me right now, I'm going to go ahead and put that number in the description. So if you happen to come back to this, 273, and you're somewhere, you're just listening, because I do that a lot, just listen to podcasts, and you're just listening and you can't write it down, you could just open up the description here and see it. And I'm also my number lock wasn't on. Oh, I'm having a comedy of errors today, but that's okay. If you find yourself where you need someone to talk to, call that number. There's someone there who's willing to talk to you. No, you won't be committed. Well, I can't promise that one, because sometimes you do need a break. That's another thing. Sometimes you just need a break. So there's no stigma in that too. You need to be isolated, but with the right support. But don't run away from grief. That only hurts you. I always suggest that, just like we did when we went through basic, find a buddy. I mean, a buddy doesn't necessarily have to be someone who is ex-military, although it does help, but someone who's understanding, someone who has an open heart. And if you're in a better place and you just happen to fall upon this video and you know someone who needs to hear this, or might need that support, you could always forward this video to them. You can always suggest anything within the series to them, but you could also try to be an ear for them too. Some people don't want to go to therapy, but sometimes people just need to vent. It's funny because after I got out of the service, and I am fortunate enough to have a significant other who's ex-military as well. After I came out of the service, I've been blessed to have friends that I could just call up and say, hey, I just need a vent. And they could do the same thing to me. And all you need to do sometimes is get it off your chest. I want to meet you one day. I want to be blessed with your wisdom and your stories and your talent and your gift. You are a gift to the world. And you've already shown that because you served your country. That's a gift. That's a sacrifice. And it's not too much to ask just for a few moments to be an ear to a gift. You may feel like you're invincible and you should be invincible, but at the end of the day, we are all human and we go through human emotions. And grief is one of the ones that, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's like no other sometimes. But that does lessen. I can't say it'll pass, um, because I go through waves of grief depending on the issue. And I know you do too, especially if you clicked on this. If you click on this, you wanna figure out how to deal with grief. Whether, although there's no one in the chat now, but whether you are going through it right now or just was hit with it, to go through the process is one thing. To get support and surround yourself. I mean, you could be going through the grief and you're like, I don't know what to do. And maybe through this grief, outside of gaining the acceptance, which will happen as you ride the wave, you could get that spark to set yourself up with a support group. Um, there are certain terms we don't like to hear. There are certain terms that are triggering to us, and we are all like that. We just don't want to hear certain things. We don't want to be asked certain questions. But people will do it because, people don't understand boundaries. Um, Civilians don't understand. That's not the question you should ask. That's not what you should say. But at the same time, it helps you with self-awareness. I kind of got thrown off track. A train went by and threw me off track, so I do apologize for that. But at the same time, you, just like those good times, those wonderful birthday celebrations, the wonderful outings you've experienced in the past, it's part of your life and it molded you, those experiences, you're being molded through grief sometimes. Um, and that's where the acceptance come from. I want everybody who comes across this video to get to that point, to cross that mountain, because it's a mountain. It's not a hill. I ain't even going to downplay it. It's a mountain. And sometimes it feels like it's one of those unclimbable mountains. Sometimes it feels like you're not prepared. I'm just full of cliches today because the higher power, the universe, God, does not give you more than you can carry. Let's change our perspective when it comes to grief, disappointment, because disappointment does lead to grief, and go through the stages. You go through the stages whether you want to or not, but just be like that surfboard on the wave. You don't fight the wave, you go with it. You get on that surfboard and you ride the wave. Sometimes the wave is nice and sometimes the wave is horrendous. Um, and I'm not just giving lip service on that one. But you're going to get to the other side of the tunnel, no matter what level of grief it is. And on that note, because I want to actually leave on a positive note. And actually, this is one of the few ones I'm probably going to end it with the serenity prayer. Um, on that note, I want you to realize that one, and I'm going to say this every time, you are special. You have a gift to still continue sharing with the world, even if it's just for one person. And you owe it to yourself to share that gift, to learn that lesson, to be that pillar of strength. Because you just don't become a pillar of strength by having an easy life. Your experiences make you that pillar. Your experience is what you build upon. So, on that note, I'm going to beg you, stick around. We may not meet face to face. We may not even talk, depending if you decide to drop a line at the chat or drop a message through YouTube or through X. We may not have an encounter, but maybe the encounter is not for me and you, but maybe the encounter is for a similarly younger you. You are the strength to help things move on in the world. And on that note, I am going to go ahead and end this. This is just a short one. It is not one of my favorite topics, I'm going to admit, but it is a lesson. And before I get into the prayer, I'm going to say, they are losses, different types of losses we go through in life for different reasons, and they're pretty tough. And this is not the outlet for me to share my particular struggles, But whether you be male or female, whether you're serving now or you have served, one thing I want to leave you with today is if you are going through grief, or in the future you go through grief, or in the past you went through grief and you just couldn't figure it out. Sometimes grief could blind you to the support you have. Sometimes grief can blind you to that helping hand that's reaching out for you. So, your homework till next week, not next week, I'm sorry, wrong series. Your homework to next month, to the next buddy check for you is to, no matter where you are in life, whether you find yourself in a place that's dark or you're having a wonderful time, take a moment to look and see the true helping hands that are reaching out for you, and reach out your hand and grab it. And on that note, let's do this one more time. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And on that note, I'm going to give you a heartfelt Happy New Year. Lighten your heart by facing your heart. Wake up tomorrow and brighten the world, because that's what you do. Till then, my name is Judith Swanson, and I will be speaking to you on this Buddy Check Challenge, a Buddy Check channel. I can't talk today. On this Buddy Check channel next month, February 22nd. And we will have a date around that time. I'm just seeing if it falls during the week. Hold on a minute. Oh, great. We get to have a midday buddy check. It's on a Saturday. I like those. Those are better than weekdays. If you have the rest of the week, if you have to go into work, no matter what you're doing during the rest of this week, for your support, look around for that helping hand, and always keep your ears open for the words of encouragement and the words of wisdom. Till next month, signing out.